I got another battle for you, and it's a fairy tale one. We got Laxus versus Mystogen and Erza during the Battle of Fairy Tale way back in episode 45, 47, 46. You know, back at the beginning of Fairy Tale when Laxus was trying to take over the guild. Those two were also S-class wizards. So those three fighting or in the same, same spot at Cardia Cathedral. Except, they're just like, Natsu, you can't fight this time. They take over and they're fighting him. That's the scenario. And both of them are fighting him, not just one of them. And Michigan ain't allowed to leave the fight, even if his face is shown. He's not going to leave and be like, oh, I can't show my face to you because you'll start thinking I'm like him and you won't be able to fight right. You know, don't matter. This fight is interesting. It's interesting. Let's get into it. Strength wise, Erza, right now, she's the weakest one there. Yeah, strength wise, lifting power, striking power. Well, actually, she's the second strongest there. Laxus is the strongest one there. Michigan is slightly weaker than Erza. Laxus wins the strength category. Speed category, Michigan is pretty fast. Erza has her speed armors that she can wear, but Laxus is the fastest one there too. He's the fastest one out there on that battlefield. Durability wise, oh shit, durability wise, it's Laxus. He took on two Dragon Slayers, and he barely took any damage. Got his second win. Let him fucking get his second win against these two, boy. Oh shit, they they could. I'm saying this durability wise, Laxus wins that. Erza has her armors. Like, don't get me wrong. Erza had, I think she had about 10 armors she was using at the beginning of Fairy Tail. She got way more later. We understand that. Like Erza later on, she bridges the gap. She closes the gap on Laxus and is like closer to him in power and everything. But at this point in time, y'all, she only has so much in her toolkit that she's strong. She can move a little quicker, but if she gets to trying to use her like most durable armor, right, he'll still break through that shit. Especially if he's in Dragon Force, he'll break through that shit. And Michigan's already a guy who's not so durable, and he tries to rely on speed. Endurance wise, Laxus. Not saying Erza, and I'm saying Erza because like I've all the shit we've seen from Michigan, he's never in a fight that long. I'm not like this guy has the worst endurance out of everybody here. Erza, she has some she tries to get a second win and win in fights, right? But Laxus is somebody who's actually more powerful than her, has more experience, has all this, right? He fought he fought two Dragon Slayers, not to a standstill. Hiromashima's plot armor to protect Natsu, the main character, had to come into play at some point in this battle. That's what happened there, y'all. You know, Natsu at that point, and then see in this fight, Natsu still probably could have won, but see, when he fought Laxus, he never even used Dragon Force in that fight. If you remember correctly, he never showed the, dragon scales on his face. Not even at the end of the fight. Because he still didn't know how to access that power yet. and he had the ability to do it because he just beat Jalal like a couple weeks before, right? But Natsu's not in this fight. Erza has great endurance, but it ain't enough. Intelligence-wise, I'll give it to Erza and Mystogen. They'll try to come up with a plan. They'll see that this guy is, stronger, faster, more durable, has, better endurance, and they'll try to, work a way to, really fuck this guy up, to put him down. Probably having Urza doing most of the heavy lifting, going in close, and then he's gonna, because he's just staff magic, right? He his magic relies on those 5 staffs that he carries around. If you don't have those, he ain't doing shit, And he's gonna like basically let her know, like, girl, I need to like set these up so I could use a 5-layer magic circle, and that magic will do some damage to Laxus. But even then, he still knows how to like protect himself from those kind of magical attacks, high level magical attacks that would, knock somebody else out. He would still be, out there like that. Intelligence goes to them though. And Laxus ain't dumb either. He knows that they're, S-class wizards. He's actually psyched about fighting them. Experience-wise goes to Laxus. He literally grew up in the guild. You know, he's fighting them because he believes he's actually worthy of being the fucking guildmaster. And honestly, like from a power standpoint, yeah, he actually should be the fucking guildmaster. Even back then, he was like that. In the guild. Close skills wise, Laxus has the close skills. Running up on them and just giving them the fucking business. Range skills, I give it to Erza and Mystogen, but you could easily give it to Laxus if you wanted to. That Thunder Dragon Roar would have him, fucked up. And then all the other like range, he can shoot lightning bolts from his arm. You know, they have like shields and shit too. So like, when he ain't, using his like most powerful range attacks, he won't do that much to him. Recovery goes to Laxus. Hacks go to Laxus. They have more in their bag, but he's a Dragon Slayer. The Dragon Slayer, he used Dragon Force in his fight against Natsu. You've seen the Dragon skills. You've seen, it was on his arms, and he actually grew like, when that comes out, they're gonna be like, okay, they're gonna be just like Natsu and Gaja, where they're gonna be like, okay, we got him with the 5-layer magic circles and the Heaven's Will attack from you. We use Unison Raid. He should be done. Boom, second win. Thunder Dragon, Dragon Force, right? Kicks in. They're not ready for that. They already poured out a whole bunch of magical power in those attacks, and they're not even Dragon Slayers. That's why it didn't do too much. See, and that's why I said this matchup was interesting, because they didn't know that he was a Dragon Slayer either. They just knew that Laxus is powerful and he uses lightning magic, but they didn't know he was a Dragon Slayer. And then when they find that out, they would be like, where's Natsu? And by that time, they're already not there, because they said that they were going to handle it. And guess what? They end up getting handled. Now, Laxus is, a guy who can use he could use Fairy Law. He's one of 3 people, and he's not even the master of Fairy Tale, but he's the grandson of Makarov, and he knows how to use the Fairy Law. And he used that shit way back in the beginning of Fairy Tale. So don't tell me that he don't know how to use it. He just doesn't use it ever again. Probably because he feels bad for what he did. Environment goes to Laxus. Like I said, he's older than them, and he also grew up in the guild too. He ain't gonna let the 2 other S-class wizards, minus Gildarts, because Gildarts was basically the only one who could beat this guy at that point in a one-on-one. Remember, Natsu beating him wasn't just Natsu. Everybody else came and did some damage to him too. Natsu just got, his, had just enough to beat him. And yes, I do believe that these two are more powerful than Natsu at this point in time. During the Battle of Fairy Tail, Erza and Mystogen were slightly still better than Natsu. And that's because Natsu didn't know how to access his Dragon Force. It's one of those things where it happened and you don't know how to control his powers. But Laxus actually knows how to control his powers. Um, and that being said, y'all, Laxus is winning this fight high difficulty. I'm not even gonna try to act like he's not, because these two don't have Dragon Slaying magic. If they had Dragon Slaying magic, they could do more damage to this guy. They can stay in the fight longer. Erza is a person who tries to, push past her limits in fights. We see it all the time, and she would do that during this fight. Honestly, I do see him taking out Mystogen first, and then she's in the mix, trying to fight him. But at some point, that lightning's getting to her, and she's like, and he just hitting her with so much, and that shit's overwhelming, brother. Laxus wins high difficulty because I do believe they get it. 5-layer magic spell off on him, and that does some damage. She has her Heaven's Will. She hits him with a whole bunch of swords. That's doing some damage to him. But at the end of the day, he's walking out of that shit just like, and he's gonna have both of them in, cast. She has a broken leg, a broken arm. Mystogen, he's in the same boat as her. They're both on crutches. And he's just, got, cuts and bruises, and that's about it for him. Yeah, man, Laxus wins that shit. And I'm not even saying that because he's my favorite character, but watch the beginning of Fairy Tail, and then watch later on too, and that Mystogen's not really like that, man. He's not the same as Jalal. He don't even use the same magic as Jalal. They just look the same. Now, if this fight was Jalal and Erza, that'd be a different story. And actually, they might have actually got the win on him. They probably actually would have. But Mystogen is no Jalal. They're not the same. Watch Fairy Tail and let me know what you think about this in the comments below.